Right now, comic book movies at the box office aren't doing so well. Success has shrunk to the point where $500 to $600 million is considered a major win. Everyone's celebrating, and some are even calling for a statue of James Gunn for saving the genre. 10 years ago, Zack Snyder got slammed for a similar success. Man of Steel 2 vanished into the void, and we got Martha, after which the DC universe quickly collapsed. But Marvel is doing even worse. Their latest phase grossed less money than their very first, the one with the flop, The Incredible Hulk and Thor, alongside Captain America, the First Avenger, which together barely made enough for burgers for the whole crew. That didn't stop Marvel back then. They had Iron Man, which led to the Avengers. We all know where that road went. Now, though, the picture looks far scarier. In the last 5 years, the only Marvel film to really succeed without caveats has been Spider-Man, whose rights are actually held by Sony. That's especially ironic, given the laughably low price Sony paid for those rights 25 years ago. Next year, we're getting another Spider-Man movie, and it's hard to find anyone who doubts its success, even while other comic book films flop. Because there's Spider-Man, there's Batman, and then there's everyone else. So today, we'll revisit the Spider-Man film lineup, which has had its own missteps. Missteps that, ironically, turned out to be a blessing for everyone else. Many famous directors could have ended up tied to Spider-Man. Most of them would have turned the character into something completely different. One of the most curious what-ifs is Michael Bay. Officially, Bay turned down the director's chair because of a packed schedule. Still, for years, jokes trended about how Uncle Ben would have been blown up if Bay had taken over. Uncle Ben got lucky. Maybe we weren't so lucky, because seeing Bay's Spider-Man at the peak of his powers would have been fascinating. Adjusted for inflation, Spider-Man is one of the only superhero franchises where almost every film, save one, would now cross the billion-dollar mark. And because of that one exception, a little drama unfolded. Attempts to bring Spider-Man to screen go back to the 1970s, though those were just TV projects nobody watched. In the 1980s, Canon Films tried to surprise everyone, but while they scrambled over a script, Canon collapsed, and Spidey was shelved. By the early 1990s, rights bounced around, until James Cameron got interested. Cameron wanted a new Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and figured Spider-Man would do. His draft included gore, swearing, and Peter Parker and Mary Jane getting intimate in public simply because they could. Arnie, for some reason, wasn't cast as Peter. Cameron pictured him as Dr. Octopus instead. Production was supposed to go through Coralco, but when Coralco went bankrupt, the project died. Eventually, Sony secured the rights. The deal was messy. Various individuals and studios had partial claims. Sony even gave up certain James Bond rights in the process, with MGM stepping aside. Other issues were solved for $10 million and, allegedly, a 5% cut of every Spider-Man film's gross going to Marvel. That deal would be revised in the mid-2000s. With rights settled, Sony approached David Fincher, Seven, Fight Club, to direct. Fincher passed, saying the studio rejected him. He'd proposed killing Gwen Stacy right away and making a darker, edgier film, but Marvel's style never interested him. Next, Sony went to Barry Sonnenfeld, Men in Black, Get Shorty, who turned it down in favor of Men in Black 2. Then they tried Jean de Bont, Speed, Twister, but he opted for Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life instead. Finally, the job went to Sam Raimi, who, after a string of box office flops, was available and affordable. Sony figured they had nothing to lose. Raimi didn't demand creative control, which also made him convenient. Casting was bumpy. Raimi wanted Heath Ledger, but Ledger either wasn't available, wasn't interested, or was vetoed by the studio. Accounts differ. In the end, Tobey Maguire got the role for $3 million. He admitted he wasn't into comics, and only read a few after Sony sent some persuasive guys his way. Kirsten Dunst landed Mary Jane after beating out Elisha Cuthbert and Eliza Dushku. Willem Dafoe lobbied hard for Green Goblin, even camping outside producers' homes, until they gave in. With a $139 million budget, Spider-Man 2002 became the first film in history to make over $100 million in its opening weekend. Total worldwide, $821 million, around $1.5 billion today. If X-Men 2000 restored faith in comics, Spider-Man proved they were a goldmine. The sequel, Spider-Man 2 2004, had a bigger $200 million budget and problems. Raimi couldn't get all the actors he wanted, and they started shooting without a finished script. Maguire, emboldened by comparisons to Will Smith, demanded more money, refused stunts, and even claimed severe back pain from filming Seabiscuit. Rumors of Jake Gyllenhaal stepping in as Spidey surfaced, and suddenly, Tobey recovered. He ended up with $17 million. Spider-Man 2 grossed $795 million, less than the first. With its higher budget, profits were lower, which influenced the troubled third film. Spider-Man 3, 2007, ballooned to an alleged $350 million budget, possibly $400 million, making it one of the most expensive films ever. Reshoots were extensive, many trailer scenes were cut, and Raimi admitted the movie was bad, blaming studio interference, especially Avi Arad forcing in Venom. The film still grossed $892 million. But depending on the real budget, profits may have been razor-thin. Tobey got $15 million, then asked for $25 million for Spider-Man 4. Raimi wanted to add Black Cat, Vulture, Electro, and a resurrected Venom, while the studio kept pushing other villains. Tensions broke down completely. Kirsten Dunst's personal struggles didn't help. Ultimately, Sony scrapped everything for a reboot. In 2010, Raimi admitted he never liked Spider-Man, and that directing 3 films felt like daily torture. He said the franchise needed someone who loved the characters. Sony then looked for a new director. They briefly courted Gary Ross, Pleasantville, Catherine Bigelow, The Hurt Locker, and even Wes Anderson, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Fantastic Mr. Fox. But all fell through, mainly over creative control. Finally, they hired Mark Webb, 500 Days of Summer, who was cheap and agreeable. Casting The Amazing Spider-Man, 2012, drew crowds of hopeful actors, Taylor Lautner and Joseph Gordon-Levitt among them. The role went to Andrew Garfield, fresh off The Social Network. Emma Stone won Gwen Stacy's role over Anna Kendrick, Teresa Palmer, and Amber Heard. Garfield was enthusiastic, claiming he'd dreamed of playing Spider-Man since childhood. But costs spiraled. Though Sony hoped to save $100 million by ditching Raimi, filming in New York drove the budget over $230 million. The film grossed $758 million, less than Raimi's movies, but still close to $1 billion adjusted for inflation. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, 2014, faced worse troubles. Rhino was reduced to a cameo due to budget cuts. James Horner, who scored the first film, quit, calling the sequel trash. Garfield made just $1 million. The film cost about $200 million, possibly $293 million, leaked via the Sony email hack. It grossed $708 million, with weak US numbers, $203 million, and reliance on overseas markets like China, where studios get only 25% back. Depending on which budget figure you believe, Sony either barely broke even or lost money. As a result, all planned sequels were scrapped. Negotiations with Marvel Studios, which Sony had rejected in the 2000s, were reopened. This eventually led to Spider-Man joining the MCU with Tom Holland. Sony eventually made a deal with Marvel Studios. For the first time, Spider-Man officially became part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Tom Holland debuted in Captain America: Civil War, 2016, and soon got his own solo film, Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017. The film grossed $880 million worldwide. The sequel, Spider-Man: Far From Home, 2019, became the first Spider-Man film to cross the billion mark, finishing at $1.13 billion. But the true cultural milestone came in 2021. Spider-Man: No Way Home brought together 3 generations of Spider-Men, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, in one movie. Audiences had dreamed of this for nearly 20 years. The result? $1.9 billion worldwide. It became Sony's highest-grossing film of all time and one of Marvel's biggest box office triumphs. Today, Spider-Man is not just a superhero. He's a symbol of the idea that comic book movies still have life in them. He has survived countless reboots, actor changes, studio wars, and even audience fatigue. Yet each time, he returned stronger and brought millions of fans back to theaters around the world. Maybe the golden era of Marvel and DC is ending, but Peter Parker's future is in no danger. Because there's Spider-Man, there's Batman, and then there's everyone else.